Welcome back. Man of Mastery podcast episode 10. As always, thank you for your interest, your support, and most of all, your trust in investing time here in what I hope continues to be valuable content. Today's guest should be no exception. He has transformed his life. He's lost over 125 pounds. And even more interesting is the energy and the mindset and the mental toughness element of what he's been doing. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Today I have Alvin Schultz, culinary consultant, personal chef, and co-founder of Eat MBF, Mind Body Fuel. Alvin, welcome, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So you've been in the news lately. So you have really gotten some press on an incredible personal transformation you've been through in probably mind, body, and by way of fuel. Can we talk about that to start on the physical side of things? You've been through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, give me some numbers and a baseline and a time frame.
Yeah, I point to right around August of 2013 as the start of my transformation. That time of my life, I would have been 31, 32. Probably 300, every bit of 350. So I never would get on a scale because I just was afraid of the number that I would have seen at that time of my life. But looking back at pictures, I know that I was every bit of 350, if not pretty far north of that. And so I signed up for Krav Maga at that time, which is how you and I met.
Right.
And I started training, started being conscious of what I eat. I wouldn't say I was on a diet. I was kind of watching carbs, but not really paying that close attention to it. And I started working out for the first time in my life. So that was kind of the start of the transformation. I saw some good results. I probably lost 50, 60 pounds around that time, maybe a touch more. I remember getting down to about 275, maybe a year or so into the start of my Krav Maga training. And I was real happy with that. My doctor was happy, I was walking the streets at around, like I said, 275. And I was like, okay, well, this is probably like the healthiest I get. Like this is, I could do stuff now that I never thought was possible. So this must be kind of the max out version of the Alvin Schultz.
Right.
And then fast forward, and I maintained that lifestyle, maintained working out at a pretty aggressive clip. My diet fluctuated, as did my weight. I never got back up anywhere close to 350, but I got north of 300, probably on several occasions. And then fast forward a few years to just a year ago now. So this is May 2018 now. I get on a scale, and I'm 316. We had started Mind Body Fuel, which, for those who don't know, it's a meal prep service paired with a coaching element. So we cook healthy meals twice a week. We deliver to customers twice a week. And then we also incorporate a coaching element to help people get through the plateaus that they're going to face on a long diet journey or health journey. We share what's worked for us and our clients. We also help try to build some of their mental toughness so that they can work through their own challenges, whether it's diet or fitness related or just, business, health, personal life, any of that stuff. I think it once you know, you can kind of translate it into what problems you're facing. So we had started Mind Body Fuel a month ago, and that service is largely based around the ketogenic diet, which I'm sure probably many of your listeners know, but it's very low carb, higher fat, and no sugar. And so I've been cooking this way for clients for about a month or so and tasting all the food, making sure as the chef I was happy with it. But I wasn't eating it myself for my day in, day out fuel. And so I had seen all my clients lose a pretty dramatic amount of weight. And I said to myself, maybe this business that we've started is really working. So why don't I try it out for a month? So again, this is May of 2018. So I tried it out for a month, and sure enough, I think in the first month, I'm down like 25, 30 pounds. And I'm back down close to that lightest weight that I had ever kind of walked at as an adult. And I said, wow, this is incredible. What if I went for another month? And so another month goes by, and I'm down more pounds. I'm approaching 50 pounds down at this point. I'm like, oh, I never thought I could lose 50 pounds from where I started. And at that point, I was, in the 260s, and I said, well, what if I could get to 250? Well, that'd be cool. I said, if I got to 249, 250, that would be the first time in my life that I had ever been closer to 200 than 300. And when we started this whole business, or when I started eating the diet, I did not think that this was going to be possible. So sure enough, I crossed 249, and then oddly enough, the results just kept rolling. And so it was easy to set like, oh, maybe I can get to 240. It was easy to set these micro goals. And that became a big part of kind of the success, was just celebrating every little win along the way. And I was fortunate enough to have, 2 or 3 sizable wins a month based on these micro goals that I was setting. And so fast forward to now, I'm down about 125 pounds from where we started. So on any given day, I'm somewhere in the 190s. And crossing that 200 mark was huge for me. That, I still don't know exactly where I want to land. I know my body composition is still currently changing. I'm working out harder than ever. I've added running and distance running into my training repertoire. I'm adding hours in at CROB, as well as cross training with other things. And I just feel great. I feel amazing. Confidence is through the roof. Energy is through the roof. I'm a single guy, so attention from ladies through the roof. It's like, I never thought I could be this size, let alone this happy. And I never really considered myself an unhappy person. I knew my health wasn't great, but I was always able to do things. I was always able to maybe not go on a run, but I was walk up several flights of stairs, like no problem, So I knew my health wasn't like, I wasn't in athlete shape, but I never just thought that was possible. But I really never considered myself like unhappy. And that's been maybe one of the biggest surprises. Like, I have so much more options now and so many more activities that can make me happy. And I have a new level of happiness that is, it's really, looking back, it was unimaginable at the time. And it's been almost exclusively fueled by changing what I consume.
That's amazing that, in addition to just the obvious or the physical, the incredible weight loss, just the energy and how you're feeling, not only physically, but mentally. And of course the confidence that goes along with that. I'm sure if you did numbers with your doc, that would be dramatically different as well. But I think it's pretty modest that you're talking about micro goals when you were dropping 25, 30 pounds a month. I mean, that is crazy. But is that, for anybody who's familiar with keto, but I'm going to ask the question, is that abnormal, or what kind of things were you seeing? And I think it's really cool that you didn't start Eat MBF because of what you personally experienced. You created this by way of demand by others, and then you had your own self-discovery with how amazing it was. So are you, are these results fairly consistent amongst other people, proportionate to their own goals?
Yeah, so I have a kind of a unique perspective in that I work at Mind Body Fuel day in, day out. I'm kind of the face of the business to customers. I personally make deliveries. I personally cook the food. And so most of our customers, I would say 85, 90% of them, I see twice a week. And I've seen twice a week for as long as they've been taking food from us, because I do the deliveries. So we haven't tracked poundage by customer. I think it's kind of personal for a lot of people, and some of our clients aren't trying to shed weight. But anecdotally, I would say that most clients that come on to we've serviced about 300 different people at this point, and I would say easily 80% of those people will lose 7 to 20 pounds in the first month that they change their diet. If they're brand new to keto, if they've been eating a traditional 3 meals a day kind of quote unquote balanced diet, it's not at all uncommon for someone to lose over 20 pounds in the first month. What we see is with clients that stick on with us longer is almost across the board, the energy level goes up as the weight comes down. As you can imagine with any kind of journey, there's highs and lows, there's plateaus. And that's been where sharing my experience and sharing the perspective that I've seen so many of my clients go through, I'm able to help people work through some plateaus and change things along the way that they didn't think was possible. So you asked, are the results typical? To an extent, and it kind of boils down to how bad do you want your end goal, or what is your end goal? A lot of times people don't have an end goal. They just know that they need to lose a little bit of weight, right? Or they don't want it bad enough. They're not. It's work. I mean, if this was easy, everyone should do it. And I don't want to say that it's impossible, but it takes some effort. It takes some mental discipline and diligence, right, to stick with anything to see a long-term result.
Yeah, for sure. But even still, those are big numbers that are achievable
Yeah,
right away to very quickly
yeah.
see results by anybody. And I love what you're doing with the business, because if somebody is in an area where they can get your food delivery, then it just takes one barrier out of the way to food prep or shopping or figuring out how to do this.
Well, yeah, it gives people time back, right? Because like if you, like when I started cooking the food, like within the first couple of weeks I was cooking this, I was packaging meals, and I think to myself, if I signed up for this, I wouldn't have to go grocery shopping, I wouldn't have to cook, I wouldn't have to clean the kitchen after I cook, and then I'd just have like pretty tasty meals in the fridge all the time. Like this sounds great. I should sign up for this, you know. And then later on, as I had started eating the meals, I remember, there's a couple nights I go out socially, I go out for a couple drinks or whatever, and I would have easily in my old life kind of driven through a drive-through and got some Whataburger in Texas or whatever it is at 1, 2 in the morning. And I remember not driving home. I remember being in someone else's car after a few drinks and thinking to myself, no, you know what, just take me home. I've got some food in the fridge. And like, I'll eat at 1 a.m. and it's like, I know it's not great, but at least I'm not consuming a bunch of French fries, So, that was huge. That was another huge realization for me. It's like, if you just enable yourself to make a healthy decision easily, you might make that decision versus having your cheat meal or having your splurge meal or something like that. Right.
Right. Just make it easy. Right.
Yeah.
I was talking to a guy on the show here the other day. He gets up crazy early for his workouts. I think he starts his day at like 3 a.m. And just talking about removing barriers or kind of little hacks to help succeed rather than fail or give yourself a reason or an out for failure. So in his case, he just lays out his clothes the night before, something simple like that. So boom, he can get up and go. There's no potential there of going like, well, I don't want to open the drawers and wake up the family kind of thing. So this idea of just having meals handy, either at home or potentially on the go, just removes one more chance that you're going to fold and drive through that Whataburger drive-through.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of our clients will take meals and just take all 7 of them to the office for the week, so they know they have lunch in their office fridge. It's healthy and easy, so they don't have to, get in the car and leave the office and get something, come back and eat up their lunch break. So.
Yeah, and I think I've seen you and some of the guys from the gym on carrying around F-bombs, I think is what they're called. So like a macadamia nut, high fat, sort of calorie supplement. And then there's one that I don't know if we talked about that I found a few years ago, started using. I actually threw a little bit of money at the company. Is called Ample Foods. So they've got sort of a powdered, prepared, just to add water. They've got a vegan version, I think kind of a normal version, and then they have a keto version. So the keto version, I think, tastes incredible. It's based on a lot of mac nut, coconut oil, incredible ingredients, and it's you can either get it in bulk now, which was awesome, or what they originally were doing is you would just get bottles, and each bottle has got its like 400 calorie component in it, and you throw water in it. And you just shake it up and go. So like when I was traveling a lot for work, that was my go-to. If I was, shove it in the backpack or the laptop bag. And I can remember a couple times I was on United Airlines flights where I got upgraded, and you sit down and you recline that nice big seat in row 3. And, in the past, I probably would have looked forward to actually getting some meal service on a plane. But I remember the person coming around and going like, hey, do you want the rice pilaf or the pasta? And I go like, no, can you just add water to this for me? Fill up this bottle and shake it up. And she's like, what are you talking about? You're going to turn down the first class meal? Like, yep, I got it right here in a bottle. Keto and, stick with it. And yeah, so like stuff like that just kind of keeps you rolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the meal side of things, and I think it's really cool that you have the coaching element as well. So somebody like, I mentioned this to you the other day when we chatted, my wife, very interested in the keto concept. Unfortunately, we're not in an area where you currently deliver your Eat Mind Body Fuel product. Where's a good place to start for people that are interested in shopping, learning, cooking, and eating keto?
So for me, we started kind of with Mark Sisson's book, The Keto Reset Diet, and that's where my business partner started. He started eating it for his own personal life before he approached me to kind of cook it for our clients. And Mark's got a 30-day, I think, or 27-day maybe meal plan in there that when I looked at it for the first time, I was like, okay, this all makes sense. Like, this all sounds pretty healthy. You're taking out all these carbs, which I had previously good success monitoring or being conscious of the carbs that I was consuming. But then I looked at, like, how does an average person do this? Like, I'm a cook. I'm not formally trained, but I've been cooking professionally for, 8-9 years now. And then cooking, I would say, at a high level sort of home enthusiast cook for most of my life. And I was looking at this 27-day meal plan. I'm like, this looks like a lot of cooking. Like, this is like, I was working as a private chef at the time. I was like, this is like you hire a private chef and they do this for you. Like, the normal person that works any kind of 9 to 5 to do this meal plan would be difficult, right? Just to find the time to cook it all. So that's certainly a barrier to entry. If you're the type of person that can eat the same thing for 4, 5, 6, 7 nights a week, then more power to you. That was never going to be me. But that book has a lot of different recipes in it, and some of them we started with and have since modified, but I think that's a great resource. For me, one of my favorite ways to learn is just YouTube. There's so much content on YouTube, particularly with regard to keto. I like Dr. Berg and Thomas DeLauer. I think they put out pretty solid information in a nice little consumable 5 to 6 minute video, which is great for me. And so that's where I've kind of picked up some of the technical learning, as well as some ideas for new food. But a lot of the food that for me as a cook and as a chef, once I understood like the ingredients that I could and couldn't use and how to read a label accurately and look for hidden sugars and things like that, then I could take my own culinary knowledge and culinary experience and say, oh, well, this salad, this Vietnamese salad that I love, it's like sub 2 ingredients out and I have a great keto dish. Awesome. So like that's one of the dishes that makes the menu or gets in rotation, at least on the Mind Body Fuel menu.
Cool. Okay, great. I'm going to get those links from you and I'll share them in show notes here. I was not familiar with those 2 channels on YouTube as resources. Sisson.
Yeah, Sisson, Dr. Eric Berg, and Thomas DeLauer.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'll send you links.
Yeah, great. Just as an aside, something like keto or Whole30 or paleo, things that just lead you towards eating more, I'll call it more natural, less processed, sort of turn back time on industrialized food production?
One of the people I follow on social media is Pat McNamara. If you're not familiar with him, he's a retired Delta Force operator who teaches kind of tactics and shooting now. And his thing is, if you eat and shop the perimeter of a grocery store, you're in much better shape than if you go into any of the aisles. And the aisles are all products, and the perimeter of most grocery stores are produce, your raw meats, like your actual groceries, right? So.
I had heard that long ago. I think about it from time to time. That's totally right. I actually, speaking of kind of special operators, military, I just saw this article, I think yesterday, that reminded me of a conversation I had. So last summer, I met a guy at a neighbor's house who started chatting. Hey, what do you do? And he says, well, I just retired. I go, cool. You're pretty young. What'd you retire from? It's like, well, I was in the Navy SEAL teams for, I think it was 24 years. Like, wow, that's amazing. Like, tell me more about that. So we're chatting, and I, this is a year ago, and I had just, I think, kind of discovered and started working with keto dieting myself, and I actually brought that up with him. I'm like, you guys go off and you do this multi-day stuff and long rucks and unsupported, and you're probably carrying all this extra weight in terms of calories and fueling. Do you guys use a fat adapted diet in the military or in special forces? And he goes, what is that? Like, oh, this is amazing. Like, how do you guys how have you not tapped into retraining your bodies to fuel off of fat rather than sugar? Because you can just go and go and go. And so
Yeah.
I just read an article yesterday that the U.S. military is actually considering that. They're considering redoing their entire meal plan to institute keto.
Oh, that's great. I had read an article that touched on a similar side where it was someone in Special Operations Command that was saying like we can't tell soldiers to do this, but a lot of our top operators are currently doing this. Is what this article said. So that's interesting that they're actually looking at it as a more formal rollout.
Really? Yeah. No, I think it only makes. I mean, it just makes sense, right? For a lot of
Sure.
reasons, and just in everyday life. So let's talk about a little bit of that on move towards the mentality side of things. But this has really opened up some incredible physical opportunities for you in your life. So can you touch on a little bit of whether it's being fat adapted, and I'd call it intermittent fasting, but you go for some pretty spectacular periods of time and you do fasted workouts, and your physical transformation has opened up some incredible physical and sporting opportunities that you've jumped on as probably not only fun but challenges for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it was around the 50-pound mark. So when I was 50 pounds down last year, I started to kind of plateau out, and I started to say, okay, well, I looked at it as kind of a business problem, right? Like I can't keep doing exactly what I've been doing to get this first 50 off if I want to get the next 50 off, right? So I started adding in a little bit of high intensity workout. I would do like a little 10-minute workout, and a friend of mine was also on keto at the time, so I chose him as an accountability partner. And he ended up being a terrible accountability partner. He tapped out of the workouts pretty quickly, but I would go through the rest of that month texting him on a daily, or I forget if we were doing it every day or every other day, but just adding in a 10-minute workout that would get you to sweat, basically. So that was like kind of the first thing I changed. So then I said, okay, well, what else can I change? And then it became fasting, and fasting. If you would have talked to me about fasting on any day, really any day before I started it, but I would have been like, you're out of your mind. I'm not skipping breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I was always a 3-meal plus snacks kind of guy. I would literally eat breakfast and think about what I want to eat for lunch, think about what I want to eat for dinner, etc. And so the idea of just skipping one meal was crazy to me when I started this keto journey. And then fast forward a couple months, and I'm like really considering it. And then I'm like, let me see if I can get to 16-8. So 16 hours fasted and 8 hours, consuming all your calories in a day within 8 hours. So let me see if I can do this. And that first one, it wasn't as hard as I thought it was, but I was definitely hungry at the end of that first 16. I was like, oh, I'm ready for lunch today. I skipped breakfast that day. And then I was like, let me pick a day or two a week that I can do this. And so I did that, and it got easier and easier, and it got to where it wasn't hard at all. And so I said, okay, well, next week I'm going to take the 16-day, I think it was Tuesday or whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to push it to 18. I got out to 18. I was like, you know what? I feel okay. Let me see if I can get to 20. And I got to 20, and then I ate a really late lunch that day. And eventually I got it out to 24. And so once I had gotten to 24 hours fasted, I noticed, that my workouts weren't suffering. I thought that I would not have energy to work out during those times, and if anything, my workouts felt mildly better than when I had been eating. But more importantly, I was learning that process, I would say, from going from 16 hours to my first 24-hour fast took about a month. And it was basically one day a week that I would work on this. And over that month, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, and this is what I share with clients as well, is you're really learning when your brain is telling you you're hungry because you're used to, in my case, eating at that time or around that time or hours before that time for 36 years of your life, or when your body is actually needing calories and fuel and some nutrition. And knowing the difference between those two feelings was a big learning for me. So once I had that under my belt, I said, okay, well, what if I got kind of aggressive with this fasting? Like, I know it's not going to kill me, and I can break a fast anytime I want. I'm not, I have access to food. I'm not in a survival situation. I said, why don't I map out my week? I know that there's times that I have to be in a kitchen, and I for the quality of the food's sake, I should be tasting this stuff, and I know I have to eat during those times. But what about the other times? What about when I'm making deliveries? What about when I'm planning the menu for the next week or, doing administrative work. I don't have to eat during those days if I don't want to. And so I was able to map out a week schedule and also overlaid where I knew I was going to work out or where I wanted to work out and doing some optional workouts there. And that document kind of became my roadmap for the next, I would say, 5 months or so. I stuck to it. Having that on paper, having that plan literally written out in a visual thing. Again, we talked about kind of enabling an easy decision, right? Laying your clothes out for the morning before or the next morning. It was that. Now I don't have to think about like how long do I want to fast today. It was like, no, I'm in my fasting window. I'll eat tomorrow morning or I'll eat tomorrow at lunchtime. So having that planned out was huge for me. And the more I did it, the easier I got. I was like, okay, I usually eat Tuesday dinner, but what if I didn't eat Tuesday dinner? I could probably just eat Wednesday breakfast. And so depending on how aggressive I want to get, if I'm trying to really cut more weight, which I'm kind of not at this point, I'm trying to kind of just balance fueling my body with the current level of training that I'm doing, which I would say currently is probably pretty aggressive for a few kind of crucible events that have happened and are planned for later in the year. But yeah, I would say mapping that fasting schedule out once I knew my body how it would respond to fasting and again the difference between truly needing fuel versus just your brain telling you, hey, why didn't you give me lunch? That was huge. And then you mentioned some of the new opportunities. Yeah, so I started running just this year for 2019. I don't normally do resolutions, but running is something that has always eluded me. I was never good at it, like since grade school. The fun run, the mile run. Like I was the fat kid that walked them basically. And when you're heavy set, like shin splints, I just was never a runner. And so 2019, I said, you know what, I'm going to own this running thing. I'm in better shape, and I had decent cardio. I do an hour kind of boxing workout, and I can get through that pretty easily. But I was never a runner, so it's like let me figure out how to tackle this running thing. And so on January 2nd, I went out in my neighborhood and went on a 0.8 mile jog, and I think I was averaging like a 16-minute mile, but it was more of a jog than it was a walk, even though it was slow. And I got through it. And then the next day I went out and I made it, I think a mile. I think that was the first mile. So I went on a second or third run. And then some, I call them friends. They're very dear friends, but they're the kind of friends that will just sign you up for a marathon and not really tell you. So we were sitting there in the gym lobby, and it's like, hey, Alvin, what's your address? Oh, here it is. What's your phone number? What's a good email address for you? and they're literally signing me up for the Houston Marathon a year from then. And so I guess I'm signed up for the marathon. I guess I really better start training. And this is back in the end of January. I'm like, I just ran a mile. Like I was ready to celebrate that, and you're signing me up for this 26-mile run. And then I amped up my training well faster than anyone that's wiser than me probably would tell you to ramp up your running training. So by the end of April, I'd run one run that was 27 miles, and so I felt like, okay, I can do this marathon next year. Like it shouldn't be a problem as long as I basically stay injury free. And then I've also signed up for a Portland Marathon in October. And then a group from that same group of quote unquote friends, we just attempted the 50-mile ruck course that was in Houston with the Go Ruck organization. So that would have been the route that we had planned would have taken us just over 50 miles. Unfortunately, we only made it 41, and I beat myself up pretty hard for that. So it's like, 'cause mentally, like I didn't finish the goal that I had set out to do that day or night. And then I let a week had kind of pass, and that the blisters had literally and figuratively healed. I was talking to my dad and I was telling him about it and how we didn't finish. And I was like, you know what? Sometimes I have to remind myself that literally a year ago today, I was 291 pounds and never run a mile in my life. So I gotta take that 41 miles that we were able to accomplish that night and take it with a grain of salt and say, okay, I'll be back on that course next year. I have unfinished business with it. So, but you celebrate the victories, when you have the victories, and when you don't have the victory that you wanted, sometimes there's another victory that you can celebrate. So
Yeah.
Keeps you in the fight, I think.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty incredible ramp. A 3-month program to get to 27 miles is definitely aggressive. So just to rewind for,
Unadvised, probably.
yeah, probably not. Don't do as I do, do as I say. So, like, just to rewind for a second, I really like the idea of the written plan to stick to for fasting. I haven't tried that, and I think that would be really helpful. I'm going to give that a go. I definitely, my own experience with some intermittent fasting. I mean, you do start to realize, there are these hormones or chemicals that your body produces that tells you you're hungry or tell you when to eat. Ghrelin, and you start to learn the feeling between, well, is my mind telling me I'm hungry, or does my body really need fuel? And you get fat adapted, and you've got this built-in source of fuel. And you also start to realize that a lot of our, and you mentioned 3 meals a day plus snacks, a lot of our meal structure has just become habit and social as well. So you free up all this time when you're not necessarily sitting down for each of those meals. The one thing I found just personally was I in the past had a very, very hard time doing any sort of fasting. So the fat adaptation through keto really helped me be able to fast. So my wife still gives me a hard time or likes to laugh about, and I do too. Quite honestly, like 10 years ago, she and I tried I think it's called the lemonade cleanse, where I don't know if you've heard of that one. The idea is
That with the cayenne and the honey or whatever.
exactly the grade B maple syrup, cayenne pepper, and water and lemon juice. And well, I gave that a go, and I think 12 hours into it, not even a full day. I was and this is a decade ago, right? So definitely gut and diet wise, very much sort of a sugar addict. And I mean, I couldn't function. My brain was cloudy. I couldn't do simple math. I felt like I probably shouldn't be driving a car. And I literally just made it from morning to evening. And I call that my detox. And then I did a retox. I went over to a buddy's house. I'm like, I told my wife I'm out, and she goes, "Well, don't cook at home because I don't need the temptation." So I ended up at a buddy's house. I ate an entire pizza, like 3 pork chops, a 6-pack of beer, and smoked a cigar. And I don't even smoke. It was like it drove me off a cliff. But fast forward to now with the fat adapted physiology. Intermittent fasting, it becomes, I don't want to say easy, but almost so.
It is easy once you're fat adapted, and we see this from clients too. And I've seen countless clients that were in the same boat that I was. Like when they sign up with me, they don't want to talk about fasting. I'm like, no, let's not talk about fasting. In fact, I tell my new clients, for the first month that you're with me, eat the meal. If you can eat the meals I give you, great. If you need more than that, if you need a snack in the middle of the day, here's what to snack on. Go get a bunch of nuts, go get some almonds, go get some, super high percentage dark chocolate, keep some cheese in the fridge, cook off a pound of bacon if you want to, like whatever you want to do. Like, here's a list of things you can snack on. And for the first month, I'm like, just feed yourself the right ingredients. Don't worry about the quantity. Because the other thing, everyone wants a quick fix, in our culture, right? So everyone wants to shed their X amount of pounds because they're going to go into their friend's wedding or they're in their own wedding, or they have some timeline in mind, right? And I have to remind clients of this too. It's like, if you're carrying extra weight, like many of us are, and I'm still carrying, I'm not, I think, at my ideal body weight, but I'm much closer to it than I ever thought possible. But if you're carrying any amount of extra weight, you didn't get that weight in a month. You didn't get that. You didn't get to the weight or the body composition that you are in time for Christmas. You didn't get there in time for a wedding or any kind of deadline. It just happened, right? And I jokingly but seriously say it probably took you your whole life to get to where you're at in terms of your physical form, right? So shedding that weight, like, yes, there are things you can do that will accelerate it. But I really caution people that have any kind of time-bound goal with their weight loss, because I feel like you're setting yourself up for disappointment. If you just say, like, hey, I'm going to get healthy and however long it takes, I'm going to celebrate victories along the way, I think that's a much better attitude to have. I think it keeps you much more sane in the journey.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we've got this word that I think unfortunately sort of cuts both ways. Diet.
Hmm.
It's got this connotation of something that you're going to do short term and get these results, but then I think we all know that a lot of quote unquote diets just have this rebound effect and aren't sustainable. So when I talk about keto, I'm not sure what the right word is, but I hesitate to say keto diet because to me it really is a more permanent change in just eating habits, eating style that maybe they're counterculture now, but again, I just think of it as going back to eating really much more simply and naturally. And well, hey, look, high fat actually tends to taste really good. So just
Yeah.
from a food perspective, to me, it's ultra sustainable.
Yeah, and the science that it satiates your brain, and your body feels satisfied when you eat a higher fat meal. That's huge. But yeah, I think diet. Technically speaking, like if you eat food, you're on a diet, right? Like your diet is what you consume. I think it becomes kind of a semantic argument, but I understand what you're saying. A lot of the keto groups online and whatnot, they'll use way of eating or way of life as a replacement term for diet, and I understand it. I do think you need to find some sustainability, right? So like sometimes, like I'll get a client that will call me for some coaching, and they'll be like, "Hey, my wife and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary next Thursday. What should I eat?" And I'm like, "You've been married for 25 years? That's awesome. My longest relationship was 8 months. I think you should eat whatever you want to that night. You know what? Like, I know you're trying to lose this weight or whatever, and if you want to go out, and try to stay clean keto, go to this great steakhouse. Go to Killen Steakhouse in Pearland, get yourself a nice ribeye and a salad. You'll have a great evening. You can have a glass of wine, knock yourself out. But if I was celebrating 25 years with someone that I love, like I'm gonna go out. Like and so what I tell my clients is like every now and then you got to live your life. You got to balance that with like you can't live your life your best life every day because then it puts you kind of where you started. But you got a big celebration. You know what? Like you can get back into ketosis. It's once you're out, it's not a one and done. You can easily the longer you stay in it, you can come in and out of it. You kind of dual fuel pretty easily. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Sisson actually talks a lot about that of over the course of a week or a period of time. Different days, different activities, just different again diet, and kind of once your body is more adept at it, being able to pop in and out of ketosis a little more easily. But I mean, you make a great point about balance and just enjoying things, and that's one of the reasons I think that the coaching element of your food business is just brilliant. And you're living it yourself, right? So your dear friends that signed you up for a marathon coming up in January, and it's half of 2019. You're well on your way. And then I think you said you have Portland coming up this fall. So I think the thing that you had mentioned to me prior is not only were you not a runner and maybe physically not in a good shin splints and a good way to be a runner in the past, but down 125 pounds. I think you told me that when you started, running was something that you specifically did not enjoy, and that's one of the reasons you went after it. And you've mentioned to me David Goggins as a bit of an inspiration and some of his principles, and I think he says the same thing. Like, I hate to run, and so I run.
Yeah, do something hard every day, right? Like it was very much Goggins that got me running. My friend bought me the book for Christmas, and I actually ended up listening to the audio version because of the podcast content that was in there. And man, it's honestly my go-to running jam. If I'm in that especially if I'm out for a long one, if I'm out past 15 miles or so, I'll switch from music to Goggins. Like, oh man, I just want to hear some spoken word and listen to some of his crazy stories, and kind of like his motivation. Like, oh, whatever you're doing right now, it's probably not as hard as going through buds 3 times in a year. It's probably not as hard as running in the desert, right? So it's like, man, if he can do that, getting through this next 5 miles, it's going to be it's an easy day, right?
Yeah, having that guy in your ear, I don't know how you could quit. I mean, he is such a machine, such a driven guy. If you haven't read it, another really good funny, but inspirational. And you can actually, I went through and took notes on this thing in terms of almost a written plan. Is a book by Jesse Itzler called Living with a Seal. Have you heard of that one?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't listened or read it, but yeah, that's the one where Goggins is waking him up at 4:30 or something every morning.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. So he hired him, and I think at the time he wrote it, there was some confidentiality around it, and
Right.
Goggins wasn't actually. I don't think he was thrilled about being named in it, but then in the end he
Yeah.
was. So Itzler had met Goggins. Goggins tells a story about his first ultra and wanting to enter, but needed qualifying ultras. So he did this
Yeah.
100-mile, 24-hour run in San Diego. And I think that's
Yeah.
that's where they met. It was meant to be a team run, and Goggins just went out and did it by himself. So then Jesse goes like, I got to find out what this guy's story is. This is crazy. Found out his
Yeah.
story, and then ended up hiring him to live with him and his family and train him for 30 days. And as you said, I think the one precondition was you do whatever I say whenever I say.
Right.
So I mean, there's really cool stuff in there, and there's some funny stuff in there too. Like they're in I think in the office one day, and all of a sudden Goggins just starts screaming at him. He goes, burpee test. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? And he's like, you know what a burpee is? Yeah. You know what a test is? Yeah. Burpee test. So it's like, 100 burpees, and the goal, or at least what he considered an acceptable threshold, was being able to do 100 burpees in 10 minutes. So that's one I've been carrying around with me that I keep trying to work on myself. 100 burpees, 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. You mentioned the coaching element of MBF, and I think that is huge because, when I look back on the success that I've had and when I'm signing up new clients, I think about why people typically don't find success when they take on a new diet, or if they want to call it a lifestyle change or way of eating. For me, as I examine it, and from my current perspective, it all boils down to mental discipline, right? Like I could have fallen off the rails at any time and gone back to my old way of life, gone back to, eating whatever I wanted with my friends, whatever I wanted, instead of, really celebrating a victory and giving myself a sort of cheat meal, or a micro cheat is what I call them now. But having the mental discipline to do that, it was, what's my why, and working with my business partner who has been through, you mentioned Mark Devine and the Unbeatable Mind courses, and having him kind of in my ear, also motivating me. And then also along the way, figuring out for myself, like, oh, I set this micro goal and I have something to celebrate next week. I have a mental win that keeps me energized and eager to get the next win versus, oh, I just want to lose. If I had set out back last May and said, I want to lose 125 pounds, or I want to lose 125 pounds by New Year's, I would have quit month one, but the fact that I didn't have any time boundness to it, the fact that the next goal was always attainable for me. It was get to this next milestone. And honestly, there's some months or weeks where I needed to set a smaller milestone. I remember last Christmas, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I knew I was going to be back home in Portland for Christmas. And I said, you know what, here's what I weigh the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. If I make it to New Year's and I'm just even, I'll celebrate that. Like I'll make it through the holiday season, even Steven, and I'll be good. And get back on the horse seriously, in the new year. And I was able to shed a few pounds, and I was like, oh man, great. Like then it was like an extra win, So having that mental mindset that this is going to be a journey, having someone in your ear or access to someone along the way to get some guidance in your journey. To me, that's huge. To me, that's kind of a game-changing element. Like I think a lot of people could do easy, healthy meal prep and get it to you, or keto meal prep and get it to you. But the perspective of, having access to myself, who lives it on a daily basis and has lived it for over a year, and has the perspective of seeing, like I said, over 300 clients start their own journeys, and some of them have come off our meal plan because they got to their goal weight, and, more power to them. And some of them come on and off and on, and we're happy to see them come back. But watching all those people take their own journeys and work through their own struggles, and then being able to share that knowledge with new clients. For me, it's intensely satisfying, but I think it also sets Mind Body Fuel apart from, anything that anyone else is really doing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing what you guys are doing between the coaching and the meal and how they complement each other. I enjoy following along with you in the business on Instagram. There's some crazy looking food, crazy good. And I know you post a lot of stuff about your athletic endeavors as well, which just adds to the inspiration and the proof that you guys are living it. I guess the one last thing I wanted to ask is in terms of that. So for somebody like myself that is outside your food delivery footprint right now, what are your plans?
Yeah, so I mean, we would love to grow the business. Currently, we're delivering exclusively to the Houston market. I have planned, and this is one of those things I need to just take the jump and start posting some content on it. So we started a YouTube channel a while ago. I'll send you a link. I think it's just YouTube/EatMBF, but I'm not sure. I'll find it and send you a link. But I wanted to share some of my journey there and relate it both to health and nutrition and that mental mindset aspect to help, even if you're not taking meals from me, I kind of want to help people is what it boils down to. And if you're in Houston and I can help you with coaching or food, I'm happy to. But if you're not in Houston, we do want to get outside of Houston into other markets eventually. I don't know how soon that will happen, but we just kind of want to create some awareness, and if we can help serve some people and serve them as they start whatever journey they're starting, whether it's health or reclaiming some other part of their life, whether a relationship or a business or anything like that. I think, like we said, kind of at the start of, like, once you have that mental mindset, it can serve you in many different ways and many different facets of life. So I was going to start documenting the next phase of my journey, which has kind of been, I have this, I call it almost like a new body and new possibilities that are open to me. And I'm going to be undertaking some other crucibles, this year and beyond. And how am I preparing for those? How do I reflect back on the year that I lost all the weight? I think, following us on social media, you can either DM us. I pretty much answer every message personally in some way, shape, or form. So on Facebook and Instagram, it's EatMBF, and then the YouTube channel is in its infancy. I think there's one video on it right now, but I'll make a pact on this podcast to get some more content up there on somewhat of a regular basis.
All right, nice. We'll hold your feet to the fire on that one. I just think it's so
Please
cool what you're doing, what you've accomplished so far. The physical aspect of it is really just the first layer, and what you're doing in terms of the mental piece, your crucible activities, the energy it's giving you in so many aspects of your life and business and personally and relationship. I mean, it's all just, it's so synergistic. I love to see what you've done so far, but I will get those links from you, and even more so looking forward to continuing to follow your journey and seeing what's next.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure's been all mine. Thank you so much, Alvin. That's such a cool story. Alvin's a great guy, and I really look forward to seeing his continued success. So here's your action plan for this week. Head over to manofmastery.com/010 for this episode. And in addition to finding the links to resources that Alvin mentioned, I'm going to give you links to Mark Sisson's cookbook and a couple others that I love. Get it, buy it, lay out a 30-day plan, try keto, and I feel absolutely confident you're going to love the way you look, feel, energy, everything about it. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Look forward to another fun one next week. I'll see you then.